where I get all my energy from. From the stage to the studio and to my desk. I am the energy god. And you can be one too.
You're listening to Adeshokbe Live, the Afrobeats podcast.
Us owning and controlling the narrative. For far too long, Africa's story has been told by the West. Media value isn't a tangible thing, but it is a real thing. 40% of the world's diamonds, they come from Botswana.
Wow.
We're looking to effectively have the charts, which will be launching very, very soon.
Making fantastic music or creating different kind of incredible content, but don't have the necessary
backing,
the big
right,
numbers.
The numbers to kind of keep our ears to the ground and speak to the right people within the ecosystem. I liken that to 2024. $100 million is made in Afrobeats and Afropop. It's important for us to learn from those mistakes and not to make the same mistakes of hip-hop's past. I see Dubai as a bridge. If you look at 2024, the UAE became the biggest investor in Africa, overtaking China.
Wow.
Right?
Hi there. If you're in Europe or the United States or America and want to send money back home to family and friends, look no further than downloading the Nala Money app. Send love home through Nala Money as easy as can be. All you have to do is download the app and boom, you can start the process. And guess what? For your first $50 or more money back home, you can get $10 cash back by using my promo code SHOPSY. So what you waiting for? Download the app right now and start sending love home. Make sure you follow the Nyla Loves Nigeria Instagram page whilst you're at it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of Adeshokbe Live, the official Afrobeats podcast, where we break down the hottest topics in the culture. And most times, I'm joined by a guest to have a one-on-one conversation with me. As always, we need you to subscribe. Keep those numbers going up. If you haven't subscribed yet, what you're waiting for? The last time I checked, I think 85% of the people watching this podcast are yet to click the subscription button. So subscribe now. The bigger our platform gets, the better we're in position to promote our own culture and our own people without waiting for others to do so. As always, this is always supported by the likes of Anko Car Sales, of course, Energy God, the energy drink. This is for us, by us. Make sure you go to energygod.com and pick up a pack and support the movement. Now, in the studio with me, all the way in Dubai, the UAE, is a special guest that I decided I met a couple of days ago. Shout out to my sister, my friend Jenna, who put this together. Listen, this is the brother who's involved in so many things. A simple way of introducing you will be the CFO and, co-founder of GVP that's owns some exclusive rights to very interesting media brands such as Billboard Africa. The list goes on. How would you introduce yourself so I don't get anything wrong, Jason?
Well, firstly, thank you for being there. So it's a pleasure to be on the platform. Man, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Caribbean parents. My parents are from Jamaica. I'm Jamaican. And, growing up in that kind of culture, you're immersed in the music and the food and the fashion. And also, growing up in Brooklyn, I'm from Canarsie. You kind of have that hustler's mentality, that New York mindset.
Yep.
And I think those two things together is what led me to where I am now and led me to, being in Dubai and, doing the business that we've done. I think it's really important to, highlight some of the things that we're going to discuss, in terms of the creative economy, in terms of music, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of ownership, right? So I would basically describe myself as just, a student, utilizing my experiences along the way in my journey in finance and economics and kind of bringing that into what we're doing now, the creative economy.
One of the things that instantly caught my attention when Jenna hit me up was the fact that when she mentioned the likes of, Billboard Africa and Time Africa and like Rolling Stone, like these are massive media brands that in recent times have now started to make a massive play for Africa. What was that, why that massive decision? You're holding on to serious brand names there. What was the thought process of deciding that, listen, I think it's time for these major international American brands in most cases to now have their African subsidiaries?
It's a great question. I think what it all comes down to is just the narrative and us owning and controlling the narrative, right? For far too long, Africa's story has been told by the West. And I think this newer generation, they're a lot more aware, they're a lot more savvy, they're a lot smarter, and just utilizing that and being able to encapsulate that through the brands and basically bringing Africa to the world. It was very important to us, and it's something that, you know, is very near and dear to our hearts, and why it was so important for us to have these brands, but not only representative of the continent, but to have them regionally based in the continent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at time. Time has been in existence for over 100 years.
My dad had a subscription for well over 30 or 40 years. I had every single Time magazine,
Yeah.
At least for 20 plus years.
Yeah. So you know it.
Yeah.
And now Time is only just now coming to Africa. Billboard is one of the top music publications in the world, and it's just now coming to Africa. So these are the things that we saw. These are the things that we want to use to continue the trajectory, and we want to inspire. Now's the time to inspire the next generation coming up, and you know, something that's extremely important.
Absolutely. Listen,
You know, as purveyors of the culture, to make sure that people understand and make sure that you know, we can bring value through the media and through the publications.
absolutely. Now, going into Africa, some places might have a softer landing than the others. Some people might understand what you're trying to do, whilst in other places you might have found challenges. Have you been, because I know is South Africa, was that like the first kind of place the organization stepped into, or other parts of Africa? And how has it been dealing in other parts of Africa?
It's been an amazing, tremendous experience. I think we first started our journey in Rwanda, and we love Rwanda. It's one of the safest countries, one of the cleanest countries.
Absolutely.
We absolutely love the social governance and the leadership of President Paul Kagame. So Rwanda is near and dear to our hearts, and we'll absolutely continue to do business there and invest in Rwanda. Our media publication, so essentially, we use our platform and use what we're developing and creating to empower the countries that we're working in. So it's across Rwanda, it's across Botswana, it's also across Johannesburg, Santin, Ghana, but essentially it's a global business and a global purview.
Absolutely. Botswana is one name that really hasn't been thrown into the mix on a global scale when talking about, especially recently, when talking about the creative economy and what's happening in Africa. Of course, the names like South Africa, Rwanda, like you said, Ghana, Nigeria. These are names that are pushing on the forefront, but it looks like Botswana is also making a massive play for the international scene. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Botswana is incredible. And it's so funny. Most people don't even know. It's like a hidden treasure, quite literally and figuratively. 40% of the world's diamonds, they come from Botswana.
Wow,
They
40%.
Yeah. And, you know, some of the biggest retailers that do business with them is the likes of De Beers and the likes of Tiffany's, and people just wouldn't know that. So when you think of a country that punches above its weight class, you're actually thinking about Botswana. Now, admittedly, I didn't know about the beautiful country that Botswana is. The first time I went there was for a Forbes event, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe that all these resources and all these people and all these entrepreneurs and everything was right here in Botswana, and no one talks about it. No one knew about it. So I think part of our mandate and what's really important for us to have these brands and to utilize them effectively is to take these hidden gems like a Botswana and expose it to the world. That's really what we're in it for.
Now, in recent times, obviously, the Billboard has also, created a charts for Afrobeats and looking at supporting Afrobeats and the Afrobeats culture, which also reflects on the Billboard Africa when we see it on social media pages and stuff like that.
Right.
First of all, what is the thought process within the organization about Afrobeats and Afropop culture? What's the thought process? How do you guys see this rising genre?
It's a great question. First and foremost, the Afrobeats charts is something that's very, very important to us, and it's important that not only the culture but the subculture gets the recognition, right? So there's global charts, and what we're looking to do is effectively create a chart that highlights and empowers and shines a beacon on African artists. And it's important that, the right people get the right recognition across the board.
Yep.
So the charts is a very important thing. When you look at Billboard, the first thing that comes to mind is the charts, right?
Yep.
That's what they're known for. And this is going to be no different. This is the same. We're looking to effectively have the charts, which will be launching very, very soon.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, of course, I always wanted to ask this question. Whenever a Billboard top 50, top 100 or whatever comes up, there's always some conversation, backlash. And I think it's probably because people don't understand the workings behind, Billboard selecting perhaps top 50 best Afrobeats records or hip hop producers or producers in general. What kind of process goes into that? And, is it a makeup of people within the culture, or is just, as far as people feel, it's like a bunch of white dudes in a dark room selecting stuff? What is that process like?
The process is quite simple. The charts are made up of a number of different stakeholders, and that is predicated on the number of listeners. So it quite simply is who's listening to the music. How has this music grown week over week? Who's streaming this music? So we collect that information, and that's what the charts are compiled of. It's really an indication of interest that specific artists are getting. And it's important for new and up-and-coming artists to be able to have that platform so that they can see those numbers and they can see, which of their users are listening to them, and which platforms and which countries. And when you look at music and charting, the data is so important. It helps govern and makes decisions, right? So it's basically predicated off the information that we're collecting from the users.
You personally now, like talking about music or the creative space, I know we've heard people like Jay-Z or whatever be critical of platforms like Billboard, where the numbers are very important. Now, we've got to be honest with ourselves. When we're talking about business, numbers are priority. Nobody's going to be getting into any form of business without looking at the numbers behind it.
Right.
However, you've also spoken about up-and-coming artists who, in most cases, wouldn't have the numbers. How would the likes of Billboard Africa, for example, put a spotlight on this up-and-coming artists that are incredibly talented, making fantastic music or creating different kind of incredible content, but don't have the
backing,
the big numbers.
The numbers about it.
Yeah, how would those type of creative be spotlighted?
Well, I think the operative word there is, you just said it, it's to spotlight them. It's to kind of keep our ears to the ground and speak to the right people within the ecosystem that are going to champion these artists that deserve the recognition and deserve the light, but maybe don't have the machine behind them, right? So I think, to answer your question, is just to keep ingratiated with the culture and keep close to the people who are moving and shaking and shaping the culture, people such as yourself. It's important to speak to people who know what's bubbling before the mainstream hits it, So Absolutely. It's very important to us.
Hip hop is hugely important to, Black culture globally, and has been for decades, continues to be so. What do you think, Afro-pop culture can learn from hip hop, whether it's the business, whether it's, the global domination? What can we look at from hip hop as a leading Black culture that we can also take a little bit from, or that you can say, these are incredible positives that the Afro-pop culture, Afrobeats can look at to either take from, and probably these are some of the things that we can possibly stay away from to keep afloat?
I think, if I'm going to be honest, like as I mentioned, I'm from a place in Brooklyn called Canarsie. I'm born and raised on rap music as well, and like the Jay-Z's and the Biggies and the Pacs. And I remember when I was young, just hearing about, different artists within the industry talk about how treacherous the actual industry is. And, if you don't have your business right, you can end up in a very, very bad situation.
Yep.
So I think it's important now that we're having the same kind of growth in Afrobeats and Afro-pop pop to learn from those mistakes and not to make the same mistakes that were made in the early 90s and in the early 2000s, right? Which is to have the business and to have ownership. And I think now we're seeing it. I think now hip hop has got to a place where there's ownership and then there's IP and then certain conversations have to be had, certain people have to be brought to the table.
Yep.
So I liken that to 2024. $100 million is made in Afrobeats and Afropop, and less than 2% of that has circulated back.
That's crazy, man.
Into the countries that it comes from. So I think it's important for us to learn from those mistakes and not to make the same mistakes of hip hop's past. I think it's really important from a commercial aspect.
Absolutely. You've been in Dubai for 10 years.
Yeah.
So you're operating out of this incredible city, this amazing, country, this beautiful place. Talk to me about being based out here. What was the thought process like? Why Dubai? And how has it been easy to do your business from this location?
I see Dubai as a bridge. Being based in Dubai, we obviously have Asia, we have Africa. If you look at from a metric standpoint, right? I knew if I was going to be serious about empowering the continent through publications and through our other scopes of business, that it's important to be based on a place that has that same alignment and vision. Now, if you look at 2024, the UAE became the biggest investor in Africa, overtaking China.
Wow.
Right? So being based here and having that kind of proximity is extremely important for us. Dubai has a lot of intangibles that I think other countries can emulate, and expats, people who travel here, the number of businesses that are being brought here from the West, the UK, from the US, a lot of high net worth individuals are actually repatriating to Dubai, and I think it's a reason for that. Between the ease of doing business, between the safety, which is paramount.
Absolutely.
That they're really showing you how a country can be ran if the leadership and the vision is intact. What they've been able to amass in such a short period of time, I don't think we've ever seen that in history.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, where else to start a business? Where else to live? And where else to be able to do business the way we want to do business and empower neighboring regions, empower the continent from where we are, and also being based in Africa as well. We're here and we're there, very much so. We're there, right.
The next 6 months, over the last 6 months, I think that there's been a strong visibility when it comes to like Billboard Africa. I see what's going on with Time and this and that. There's been a strong social media presence.
Right.
And they've been part of the media conversation when it comes to speaking about African pop culture in general.
Right.
What is the plan for the next 6 months? What are you looking to do? What are the goals that you really want to achieve with those massive brands that are centered on looking at Africa?
Well, there's a lot of different things that we consider when it comes to the brands and to Africa as a whole. It's scalability, it's growth, it's partnership. Where we excel is being able to synergize, is to find people, to find countries, to find companies that are aligned, that we can help to empower and help to amplify. I think those are two very important things in terms of amplification and empowerment. That's what we look to do. That's what we excel at. And we look to find people that we can partner with to help add value in that sense, is to use these platforms to add value.
Do people know that media platforms such as this can add value to their businesses and their brands? Do people understand how much value that?
Massively. I mean, it's a process of, explaining what the media value is, but people massively, for the most part, understand how big the brands are. These are global brands, and they understand how we can help them and help their business. And that's what we're looking to do, is to help to partner and to amplify and just to make what's already going on more known and bigger.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's really, really, really key and really important to us.
I spoke about the fact that my dad had a subscription to Time magazine for decades, but now the newspaper magazine business has shifted largely from the physical copies into the digital world. Talk to me a little bit about even how brands like this, can pivot and still survive, because we've seen a lot of brands and big names just completely disappear when the media space totally changed.
I think the answer is in the question. I think you're 100% correct. You have to pivot in order to survive. That print model and methodology is a bit antiquated. Everybody has a cell phone, and you can consume so much more and quicker through the palm of your hand, and everybody has it, nearby. So I think just being able to understand where the way the market's going and understand how to connect to your audience in a way that is seamless to them. And I think the way that we're doing that is through digital.
Wow. Yeah. Now, over a week, I think about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, Martell, announced people like myself as a culture ambassador, just working with an incredible brand like Martell. But the major announcement was through the likes of Billboard, specifically through Billboard, and that tells you something. That in itself meant how important that brand was, and how huge the visibility with a brand like Billboard is. Now, talk to me about even working with brands like Martell and and the kind of partnership or business that you do or are open to do with such brands.
First of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
That's fantastic. It's a pleasure to work with brands like Martell who get it. If I can go back to what you were mentioning before, it's important for us to have partnerships and connections to people who understand and people who know and people who get it, and make sure that the culture is at the forefront of the decision making and the moves that are being made. So when you look at a Martell, it's our pleasure to work with them and work with companies like them. It's what we're going to continue to do so, because you need to empower, you need to show, and you need to showcase the people who are responsible for moving the culture forward. So I think they did a fantastic job, and I couldn't be happier. I was happy to be a part of it.
Listen, when was the first time you went into Africa? Of course, you said you were born and raised in New York.
Yeah.
But a lot of New Yorkers, obviously, a lot of Americans are known not to really travel the world like that, because America is a big place. People can go to Miami, you can cross the border to Mexico, there's so much going on in America that most times Americans don't necessarily travel that far away. When was your first trip to Africa, and what was that experience like? Not only business-wise, but just spiritually, in the sense that, like you said, you've got heritage from Jamaica, Caribbean, and obviously Africa as well. What was that experience like for you?
That was a very rich experience for me. My first time being on a continent, you feel a sense of belonging, right? You take that first deep breath, you feel that air go in your lungs, and you feel like you belong. Right, I remember the first time going there. I just remember thinking, what took me so long, right? So I've been very fortunate to be in a place where I do get to travel, and I've obviously, I've been to a couple of places, and I think what's important for me is to remember that, people like you and I serve as an inspiration, right, to a young boy in Africa or a young boy in Brooklyn, and letting them know that the world is big, right? Letting them know that you can travel, and letting them know that you can not only take in other experiences and heritage and cultures, but you can share your own.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to have these kind of conversations and inspire the youth. And that's, for me, what we're really in it for, is to be able to inspire the next generation, is to be able to use our platforms and these publications and everything that we're doing in between to inspire the next generation. And as long as we do that, we're leaving it in better hands than we got it.
Absolutely. Listen, like I said, you're a co-founder of a company that holds, these strong media brands. Was it the media industry that you looked at immediately the organization was found, or you're looking at other industries as well? What about media drew you in?
The opportunity to not change the narrative, but tell how the narrative is being told and control how the narrative is being told. As we mentioned before, your dad had that subscription to Time for so many years, and he's getting his purview, his perspective from the perspective of a controlled, view. So being able to be in a position where you can work with the people who are actually shaping the culture and the people who know and understand, and being able to disseminate that to the world, we don't take that lightly. And it's something that's extremely important to us. And going forward, as we mentioned before, so many young people are clued in. They get it. They get it in ways that, we and the people before us have never gotten it before. So again, it's going to be really, really important that the intake, what they're getting from is from people who understand and come from the same and come from the same background and can, convey that in ways that are connected.
Absolutely.
To them.
Talk to me about, there was the event that took place in London where the likes of Thames were awarded. Talk to me about that event. What exactly was it, and what were the awards that you gave to the incredible Thames and other people like her?
Yeah, it was fantastic. And that was our Billboard Global Power Players events.
Yeah.
We did a number of things there. The top three is we previewed our Billboard sizzle reel, which is fantastic. Our EIC in Kosiati was presented Thames with the Diamond Award, which was in partnership with the House of Botswana.
Wow.
So Elton John was there, Ghazi from Empire. It was a fantastic event. It was kind of our coming out party, and we were very happy to be a part of it. Billboard US team has been super helpful, super supportive, and we look to have a lot more events of that scale and even greater on the continent and abroad as well.
So is the partnership with the Billboard US continuous, or are you just running off and doing your own thing? And
No,
it's like,
those guys.
and we gone.
Yeah, no. Those guys, we're so tied in. They've been super helpful, super supportive, and we're a team. We're a team. They've been very helpful. What I do love about working with them is that although they're there to help, they trust the vision and they trust the decision making, and they support it.
Absolutely.
Right? Just like when we're on ground and we trusted the decision making and the cultural landscape and the people who are actually really, really, really in it. So, it's a super supportive relationship, and I couldn't be any happier.
Are there any exciting events that you can tell us about that's coming up in the near future that we can look forward to, whether it's the creative industry or anything around Africa that you guys are working on that we can also pay attention?
2026 is going to be a very busy year. It's going to be a very busy year. We are really partnering with a lot of the biggest events that are going to be on the continent. And again, for us, it's really about amplification. It's already there.
Yep.
People don't know about it, but it's already there.
Yep.
So that coupled with the global skew of some of the brands that we represent is really going to take it to another level. And we're really excited about it.
And finally, have you ever heard of Dirty December before? Have you heard
of course. Do
you have any plans of experiencing that, or just being a part of that culture?
100%. I haven't been to Dirty December myself yet.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're looking forward to doing this year. So that's going to be really exciting.
Listen, man, my brother, it's a pleasure to meet you, have a conversation with you off camera, but exactly on camera as well. I think these are the type of conversations we need to start having going forward, the relationships we need to start building. Like you said, it's about telling our stories ourselves, controlling the narrative, having the power in our voices nowadays to showcase our people, our creative industry to the rest of the world, rather than letting others tell those stories. Right. And meeting you, knowing, you yourself now, I can understand, what the organization is doing, and I believe in the vision and what the people working with you are trying to do. And I'm excited about what the future holds and how we're going to be able to work together going forward, my brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Jenna and the rest of the team in-house, please give it up for my brother. Jason. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Me,
Appreciate
it.
Anytime.
Live in Dubai.
The Afrobeats Podcast.
Right. Got that sauce.